Hello, this is Kade, and after my video on the Retaliator and how we could rework it and the thoughts that people have provided in the comments, which were quite interesting to read, so thank you very much for those, I thought, and some requests, that I'll do some more. And for this next one I want to take a look at the Origin M50, a ship we know that is on the schedule to see some rework because it does no longer fit in with the Origin style guide. And that's where my issue is going to come in, because I actually think that the M50 is completely fine as it stands. Yes, it does not fit in with the Origin style guide, and that's how it should be. And the reasoning behind this to me is relatively simple. I see this as a purpose ship. This is a ship designed to compete in the highest level of competition in racing, which is the Murray Cup in Star Citizen, which you can compare to Formula 1. It is the creme de creme, it's the top level of motorsports, and in this case, flight sports? I'm not really sure I would call it, but it's at the top level. And you can look at any Formula 1 car and you will immediately realize there's not a car like that that's going to be produced by any of these manufacturers that is driving on the road. Reasoning being is that the requirements for a Formula 1 car are completely different. There is no reason, and I mean no reason at all, to design a car that looks like a Formula 1 car and drive on the road. Just like if you would take a car design that works for on the road and you put it in a Formula 1 race, it's not going to look all that pretty. It will get annihilated completely. So having the M50 look completely different from the rest of the Origin lineup is actually something that should be kept. Now, I'm not saying they cannot tweak it a little bit, because of course they can. The M50's design is not one of the oldest, but it has some age to it, and I do think that it's a little bit too busy perhaps in ways that doesn't really fit all that well. Like, they say like certain things are designed, like the canards up front here are designed for like airflow, and it's like, it does not really work that way, you would describe it. So if they would get somebody in line that would say, okay, if I need to design a vessel that would race both in 0G as well as in atmosphere, how would I design it? Get that person to design the ship and keep it like that. Much like the Misc Racer does not look anything like a freelancer. It's a dedicated racing ship, and I very much want them to keep the M50 as being just that. It should not conform to the style guide of Origin. It should be its own thing, because it's designed for one thing only, and that is winning Murray Cup races. So not really all that much else to say on it, because I really think that's what makes it the most fitting. The only thing that I would say is that I would like them to see offering them two variants of the M50. Because we know, law-wise, it's also being used as a interception ship, because it's so quick. I do think it would need some specialized weapon systems to actually make intercepting work, but that's a secondary issue. The main issue is going to be, if you're going to push this ship into a role like that, it will need to get a different grade of components in it. Because if you're going to have a racing ship, you're putting components in there that are running at their absolute maximum. Like, you'll never leave, you'll not turn down anything that does not need to be turned down. The cost of racing, and is such that you are replacing a lot of these parts very, very frequently, which is of course an absolute no-go if you're flying this thing in any form of like military duty or police duties or things like that. At that point, you need something that is going to be reliable and also that has some endurance to it. Like, it does not have to be the same like a standard police cruiser needs to last much longer than, say, a police interceptor car. Like, you're going to be realizing you are going to be making sacrifices for a level of performance, which is fine, but it does need to be reliable to a certain degree, and there is no way that a full-on racing ship is going to be reliable enough to service in those roles. Of course, you would lose some performance in those transitions, but that's going to be inevitable, and that makes very much a lot of sense. If we're talking about immersion, going from a racing grade components to, say, mil-spec components, I am going to be losing out in performance. Maybe not a whole lot, because it's still going to be a very small ship with two very big engines strapped to the back of it. but I am going to be losing out. There's no denying about that. But in return, I'm going to gain reliability, which also makes a M50 designed more for those roles also a lot more appealing to sell to most civilians. Because a lot of people that will be buying racing ships are not going to be racing. They're buying racing ships because it is a racing ship and they like to show off in it. The same reason why a lot of people buy Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Koenigseggs and all of those cars. Like, yeah, they are excellent on the track, but most people will never take them near a track because it's all about being seen. Much like why you buy Origin ships, it is about being seen. So having those separately, and maybe you can sell the racing version, and you can probably make the full-on race pack version of the ship. You could make it twice the price, because really it's going to serve as a much more limited market. Because the people that are going to be buying that thing, they will also have the money to maintain it at that point. Because maintaining a full-on racing ship is going to be a fairly expensive endeavor, because, well, components are wearing out so much quicker. Like, if probably a racing ship like this, it would not surprise me if you would need to replace, like if you look at Formula 1, like you would need to replace the engines in this thing after 6-7 races. Because they're just worn. They're just done for, because they're being pushed to such a high degree of power efficiency out of the package that they can mount in there, that you're going to lose out. It's going to wear out really, really quickly. I mean, like, if you look at your road car in efficiency-wise and you compare it to a Formula 1 car, it's night and day. Like, I don't know what the stats are. I believe most are like 20-25% efficiency these days. Maybe it's more. But Formula 1 cars, they actually manage to get 50% efficiency out of an internal combustion engine, which is insane. But of course, as we said, those engines don't last all that long, because they're being pushed to such limits. Like, the tolerances in a Formula 1 engine are zero. There are almost no tolerances. In your combustion engine, you have like spacers and stuff, that fill up gaps and things like that. That's not a thing in a Formula 1 engine. It needs to be perfect. Like, there cannot be any gap, because any gap means a loss in performance. The downside being you're going to have a lot more wear and tear, because things are being pushed so hard and there is no play in anything. So if something moves, it starts to wear against something, it will start to wear out. So that's for a racing ship, and that's nature behind those racing ships, is why I would like to see them to remain very much different. So in case of the M50, my rework proposal would be fairly simple. Keep what we have here, just update it in ways that make it a little bit more sensible and realistic. So maybe you need to tweak some of the shapes and things like that, but make it fit a bit more from an aerodynamical standpoint, which right now, if you compare the M50 to the Misc Racer, for example, the Misc Racer has that far more sleeker profile than the M50 does. So maybe they can tweak some around that, make it a little bit more sleek, but still make it very definitely a racing ship. It has the Origin name on it because Origin makes it, and they probably fly it and they support it in the Murray Cup races. But it does not need to look like an Origin ship, because everybody knows it's an Origin ship. Like, the people that buy Ferraris and that go to the Formula 1 races, they know that this red Formula 1 car is going to be the Ferrari. And they know that the Ferrari that they buy will look nothing like it, but they very much like to buy the Ferrari because they're racing in Formula 1. It's that relationship. So that's going to be there. It should not be an issue. But I very much want them to keep the racing ships look like dedicated racing ships. So don't turn this into like a Fuchs luxury ship. Like, I don't want to see wood in the interior cockpit, for example. It does not belong in a ship like this. If you want a small ship from Origin that's about luxury, guess what? You're already being served. The X85 is there for you. For those of you that want to go all out maximum speed and insanity, that's where the M50 should be. So yeah, no fancy drawings here. Well, I could not really call my drawings fancy at all, but just a simple message on the M50. Now, if you have different thoughts on it, by all means, please let us know. Those are the things that I find most interesting. I may not be the one that's very good at replying to all of them, but I do read the things, and I always like to consider those thoughts, because, well, everybody looks at things differently, and that's what makes stuff so interesting, and also why we need to realize we're never going to get exactly what we want, because, well, in the end, we're not the ones that making the decision. It's going to be up to CIG, and, well, for a lot of ships, that of course means it's going to be up to Chris Roberts, who will finally decide. But I do hope that, as always, they take in community feedback and that they look at these things and be like, okay, well, we can do this, we can do that, and maybe we can, find a good middle ground that will service most of the community. Which is why us providing them with feedback is going to be very important. As always, I would like to thank you very much for listening to me, and, well, if you want to share it with somebody that may have their thoughts on it, go beans by all ahead. Again, as I said, I am not a YouTuber. I'm not planning to make it a career, so I don't really care all that much. I primarily want to put some feedback out there, and I want to hear your own ideas on it, because, well, that's what makes it all that more interesting, If there's more ideas going out there, then there's stuff to talk about, and that keeps life very interesting. Again, sorry to repeat that word so much, but it's what it is. I'll see you around next time.